Welcome to Raising Nashville. I'm Bucky.
Juicebox.
Oh boy.
And if you can't tell by now from our theme music and the break-in song, this week we have a very special episode for you. We are covering
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
No.
The Life at Times.
Well, part of it. But no, we are actually covering wrestling. And what brought this episode to life initially for us was this amazing Nashville Scene article called The Greatest Wrestling in the History of the World. It was written by J.R. Lind, who works for Nashville Scene, and we want to give a shout out to him and say you did an amazing job on this article. It inspired the idea for this episode of Raising Nashville, where we want to get into not only that article, but the history of wrestling as we know it, as well as some fun things later on in that episode. And in order to do this, we couldn't do this alone. We are three guys who, I'd say maybe 1/3 of us are really into wrestling.
I'd say that's a fair percentage.
Okay, so in order to do this, we actually had to enlist the help of a special guest this week. One of our well-known wrestling historians here in Nashville, and I am talking about the one, the only, Charles Taylor King II. Welcome to the episode, Charles.
Gentlemen, it is an honor and a privilege.
Does that not just sound like a wrestling name to you? Charles Taylor King II.
I've wrestled with it all my life. Yeah. I agree.
Oh, it's just so regal. It's like William Regal. You know, it's that name, that true name.
It's got King in there.
It does have King in there, and that's the wild reference. So again, this week we want to get into and dive into wrestling. I know two of us now that we introduced our special guest, so we're 50-50 on wrestling in this room, and we're going to give you some fun facts and history about our experiences with wrestling. But what we wanted to do is start with the article in the Nashville Scene, and the reason being is because something very dear to at least two of us in this room's hearts today and over the last couple of weeks was the big announcement that they are pretty much demolishing all the buildings at the Tennessee State Fairgrounds to make room for things such as parking garages and stuff for the new soccer stadium that's being built. I believe they start playing in 2022. So we're 3 years out from our Major League Soccer team. They're talking about bringing NASCAR back to the Tennessee State Fairgrounds, and because of that, they are demolishing pretty much the original building that wrestling started. And we are talking not
for Nashville.
For Nashville, yeah.
Right.
But we're not talking like Greco-Roman wrestling or college wrestling here. We're talking about the original art of predetermined wrestling.
I think I researched the wrong subject then for this. But
Great.
that's okay. I'll just freestyle it.
Wait, so you got college wrestling? Is that what you looked up?
I looked up a lot of Olympic wrestling. That one dude, Rowan Gardner, that beat that Russian guy.
Was that
Yeah.
Saved by the Bell?
Yep.
So the fairgrounds, it's been kind of a widely debated topic for the last couple of years, and I specifically remember going to the flea market, which they hold at the fairgrounds once a month, and there's been a tent there for 2 years, basically saying "Save the fairgrounds." It's like the people in Back to the Future that are trying to save the clock tower, but they're like, save the fairgrounds. And then they were so mad about it, I approached this tent one day, and he told me about this building that was behind him that was the original building of wrestling in Nashville. And from what I remember about the Tennessee State Fairgrounds is, obviously the Tennessee State Fairs are held every year. It's named after it. But what I remember as being a kid is growing up and going to like NASCAR races, or not NASCAR, but stock car races there.
Sure.
My uncle raced there. It was a big thing for us kids. And right up the hill, there was these wrestling matches going on that I had no idea was happening. And when I was a kid or that age, I was definitely into wrestling at that point, and I'm surprised I didn't know about it.
Quick question here from Charles Taylor King II.
Sure.
Did your uncle race cars and then get out and then go wrestle?
I wouldn't be surprised. He's a big fella.
Why haven't we heard more about this guy? What's his handle?
I don't know his handle. His name is Bobby, and he used to race funny cars, and these were like stock cars with like chicken heads on the hood or like shark fins on the top of the car.
I think those are called funny cars.
I just said funny cars.
Oh, did you? I thought you said stock cars.
Just stock cars with making them a funny car. Anyway, we're here to talk about wrestling. So at the very top, there was a building that greeted visitors when they climbed the hill, and it was home of, according to this article, the greatest wrestling in the history of the world. And what we want to do really quick is kind of go through this story about the scene and the article.
So you're talking about that building, which I looked at a picture of it. I go to the flea market a lot too, and I mean I didn't know wrestling was there growing up. But
sure.
Yeah, it's got a long history of wrestling there. I feel like I'm giving a presentation that I'm not prepared for.
I know.
In the article, so they used to wrestle at the old Hippodrome, which I did not look a picture of. Did y'all look at the old Hippodrome?
No, but I remember, wasn't there like a car dealership downtown called Hippodrome?
Yes.
Right, and it's off West End, so it's a reference.
That is literally what I was thinking when I saw it.
That's what I thought when I read this article as well.
So it's got to be a reference to it, but I have no idea what the Hippodrome was. I imagine it was like municipal, maybe.
Yeah,
sounds cool.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. So that bad boy, that's where it kind of started out. And people were wrestling at the Ryman Auditorium, which I thought was pretty interesting, wrestling at church.
They were. That actually preceded, this whole wrestling thing in Nashville. They sold out the Ryman before the Grand Ole Opry was even there, like 20 years before the Grand Ole Opry even set foot in the Ryman.
Right. And so, all right, so the article points something out that they're saying that wrestling had been in Nashville long before country music, and that we were this close, inches from being called the wrestling city instead of music city.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because at the beginning of this episode, normally what we do is we title the episode, and you actually inspired my title this week, and I am actually going to call this episode Wrasslin City, USA.
This is going to be a war!
Yeah, and by that Jim Ross soundbite, you guys know that it is about to be on Raising Nashville.
All right, yes.
So in the 40s, there were a couple of guys who started wrestling here in Nashville. One of them was already here in Tennessee, and I think one of them was from Alabama and came up and actually started wrestling here in Nashville.
That's the guy the building's named for, right? Nick Gulas?
I'm going to say Gulas. Yeah, Gulas is a good pronunciation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nick Gulas was what they said was the founding father of wrestling.
Right, that's his nickname.
He was actually coined to be one of the first people to create predetermined wrestling.
Right,
which is where you know what's going to happen before you go out. Only you two. Fixed fights.
Yeah. Fixed fights.
What?
What's going to happen before you go out to the ring.
If you believe it, it's real.
Absolutely.
It's still real, you know.
It is real. So, back to the story. After Nick Gulas creates this whole thing.
Hold on, it's Gulas.
Gulas, Nick.
Yes,
Gulas.
You're calling him goulash, and it's Gulas.
Making me hungry.
Yeah.
Nick Gulas creates this whole thing with a partner who is much older than him. Then, eventually, I think he had to hire somebody else on, from what I remember.
They ended up hiring a woman named Teeny Jarrett, who you might recognize that name. Her son and her grandson was in the WWF. His name was Jeff Jarrett, and he was when did he wrestle? The 90s.
He graduated from Good Pasture High School in the mid '80s.
Yes.
Okay.
And he started wrestling late '80s. I think he went to college at what's the college off that's downtown?
Belmont?
One of the
TSU.
David Lipscomb?
Not Lipscomb. The Athens of the South. Come on, we got more. The one that starts with a T. It's off of
Trevecca.
That's it.
Trevecca.
I could be wrong. I'm
Okay.
probably wrong. We'll cut this out.
But
no, he did. He played basketball in college for a while, and then on the summers, and when he wasn't at school, he would start to referee, and then would start to wrestle, and then eventually, early 90s, 93 is when he went to WWE, and that's when people kind of figured out who he was. Lastly, kind of this article, in the mid 80s, what we know as wrestling, and we're all in similar age here, what we know as wrestling is Hulk Hogan, the big boom of the 1980s. And
Andre the Giant.
Yes.
Ultimate Warrior.
What that is Vince McMahon coming through and buying up every single territory and going, I'm going to go national. Mm-hmm. Where Nick Gulas and Jerry Jarrett own the rights to this area. Well, there's a gas station on every corner. Vince McMahon wants to compete. He comes through and he takes over. This essentially is what wrestling is today, as what WWE is, just this national thing. So we grew up with that, but wrestling still continued at the fairgrounds.
Right.
And still continued at the local level. So what you have essentially, and what the promotion almost came to be, was almost like a AAA or AA for wrestling.
Yeah.
Macho Man Randy Savage wrestled in this territory. Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestled in this territory.
I saw that like Andre the Giant came around. I mean, I know that's
Andre the Giant was like a traveling attraction.
Yeah.
And Vince McMahon Sr. was his booking agent. So he'd be like, okay, for the next 2 weeks, you're going to be wrestling in and around Nashville, doing local television, trying to draw people to this big Saturday night show where the attraction is usually a battle royal and Andre the Giant's going over, which is work talk for winning.
Yeah.
And he's going to throw everybody out.
So going
the top
over
rope.
is winning.
Absolutely.
Heel bad guy, babyface good guy.
There you
Well,
go.
that's the thing. Yeah, and also like we probably all remember Andre the Giant as a bad guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's what he was in the 80s when he was like towards the end of his career, but back then he was like a good guy, right?
Yeah. Which I always like Andre the Giant as a good guy. Like, I would pay money to I guess, honestly, it goes either way. You would pay money to watch him wrestle like 3 people and throw them in the
Yeah,
third row, which
sure.
is great.
Sure.
Okay. I almost would pay money. The big bad giant, like that's just a natural storyline. Like, who's going to defeat this big giant?
Who
But
can take it
yeah.
back?
in any
Yep.
event, going back to Jeff Jarrett, as Vince McMahon acquires all these territories in the early 90s, he goes through what's called the steroid trial. Gets caught with steroids. He's being charged with distributing steroids. And
We're
Jerry,
talking about Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon.
Because
Vinny-
he has the best thing on television.
Exactly.
So obviously there's some kind of performance-enhancing drugs
So
involved.
just
It's
just
like
to
the
get
Bash Brothers.
exactly, but just to give you a kind of a look into how tight knit this organization was run, Jerry Jarrett, who's Jeff Jarrett's dad, was actually pinned if Vince McMahon was to go to jail for distributing steroids to wrestlers. Jerry Jarrett was in line to run WWE. Like,
Yeah.
it's like he was pretty much hired for creative, but he's told, hey, if I go to jail, you're in charge.
So if that would have happened, and we're looking at an alternate timeline here, if that would have happened, Jeff Jarrett would have gone from 2 foot Old Hickory Lake Sea-Doo to Jeff Jarrett yacht.
Absolutely.
And all that took
There
was
might be a
turnover
statue.
of that trial.
Obviously, Vince McMahon didn't go to jail. Takes over the world, eventually crushes his main competitor, WCW. But Jeff Jarrett has still got this promoter's mentality in him. He starts a rival, somewhat rivals the stretch, but starts a company called TNA, which stands for not TNA.
tits and ass?
Not that one.
No.
Total Nonstop Action, which to me sounds worse.
It
Does that
kind
make
of
sense?
does. It
Depends where
sounds
your
like
mind's
a
at.
movie Dolph Lundgren would be in.
Total Nonstop Action.
Well, and it just seems like the first lull in the action, you're like, well, this was a lie.
As soon as someone's at where the action has stopped. This is terrible. Any event, he continues with TNA. Obviously, he ends up selling part of it to a woman named, this is her real name, Dixie Carter.
Hey,
What's wrong with that?
Still
That could
owns
be a real name.
Because
We're in
is that not the
Nashville.
most Nashville? I feel like the General Jackson could have been called the Dixie Carter,
feel
and it
like-
sounds exactly the same.
I feel like that was the name of the lady from Designing Women. Am I wrong about that? I swear to God, there was a lady on there named
I
Dixie Carter.
really hope that's not her name. Like, somebody's gonna fact check this and be like, no, her name's like Annabelle Smith. And
We're not known for really checking our facts on this podcast.
Not at all.
neither am I. Obviously, they had the 70th anniversary of the NWA show last year. That was Cody Rhodes. Actually, he won the NWA title that his father won at an event in Chicago, which leads to a kind of separate wrestling promotion called AEW, which is happening now.
Which is all the rage right now for all
Yes.
you wrestling fans.
It's
and you
the
know
new-
exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
All
It's-
elite wrestling.
it's-
It's supposed to, what? It's the new...
I don't know what the kids like these days.
No, it's like the new WCW. It's who's going to
Yes,
compete
yeah.
with the
Well,
WWE
obviously, but
for
it's
the future.
it's very trendy right now, and a year from now we could be they could be crushing WWE in the ratings. It looks like now that they will have WWE for the first time in 20 years will have an actual worthy competitor.
That's great, actually.
Oh, it's great for the wrestler. It's great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Which
Great for the whole
perfectly
industry,
segs
yeah.
to the end of this article because, I mean, WWE came in and kind of not disbanded, but pushed NWA. Is that right?
Yes, National Wrestling Alliance.
Yeah, I always think of something else, but they pushed them to
So it's TNA?
the bottom. Yeah. So everybody knows WWE. It's been huge since we were kids. It's been huge since the mid '80s. But just know out there that this article exists. We encourage you to go read it by J.R. Lynn. It's called "The Greatest Wrestling in the History of the World." In the Nashville scene, find it on the NashvilleScene.com. It really gives you an insight that the fact that wrestling's foundation was almost started and built here in Music City, or Wrasslin City, sorry.
Can I tell my Jeff Jarrett story now?
Does it involve cocaine?
Or
no.
does it involve two
Well,
foot?
maybe. No, it does not involve 2 foot. It could involve cocaine. I wasn't there.
Does it
All right.
involve Kid Rock's bar?
No.
Okay.
But it gets very Nashville because I'm about to say a specific day, and we all know a certain sports figure who passed away on that day. It
July
is
4th, Steve McNair.
Yes, but this is July 3rd, the night before, where I saw Steve McNair at Losers.
Okay.
Oh, guess also who else I saw?
Jeff Jarrett. Double
One
J.
Jeff Jarrett, Double J, sitting right at the bar. You see Jeff Jarrett. Google a picture of Jeff Jarrett right now. I'll wait.
Oh, yeah.
Guess what? That guy is sitting at the bar right now, having drinks. It's Losers. The band's right there. It's full of smoke, having a good old time. Well, a friend of mine walks up to him. Now, Jeff Jarrett is known for this strut.
Oh, yeah.
Which you read in this article, the originator is the Fargo strut. A friend of mine who's obviously had some drinks does literally, as Jeff Jarrett is on the far wall of this bar, does the Fargo strut. Literally struts in front of him, puts 2 fingers up, and is going to stand up and do the big Jeff Jarrett this. As he's going to do it, Jeff Jarrett stops him mid-sentence, looks at him and goes, "Hey, calm the fuck down." I lose it.
That's actually a great story. And that's a PSA for all of you people out there in Nashville. And maybe you're new to Nashville. Don't go up or don't hassle the talent here in town.
Don't do it.
That's what keeps us unique.
Speaking of just the correlation of wrestling in Nashville, so when he came to WWFE, whatever, in 1993, they filmed all these what they call vignettes. And you want to see what Nashville and Broadway looked like in 1993, watch these vignettes. They're on YouTube, get the network. It's him and the country. They billed him as the world's greatest country singer. He couldn't sing it.
It's like the honky tonk man.
Yes, but he can't sing at all. But
That's
it's him at
hilarious.
Tootsie's. It's him at the stage. It's him at the Country Music Hall of Fame. And it's actually quite entertaining because you live in Nashville now and you're like, well, that building's not there anymore. But
Yep. We'll look that up.
That's funny.
All right, so now that we've covered that, what we want to get into is some fun stuff here on Raising Nashville, where we are fans of wrestling. And whether we are reinvented fans, whether we went away for a little bit, or whether we've been lifelong fans from day one and have never stopped, wrestling is a big thing. Our wives are out there watching shows like on E! Or Real Housewives or whatever. I'm watching wrestling because it's entertainment for me. And some people out there, the lifelong story of, oh, it's fake, who cares? It is quality television.
it's a male soap opera.
And
That's all it is.
Let me
And
pre-
it's always new. That's one thing you got to give it. It's like always continuing storylines.
That's true. So those writers are, they should be paid very well because they kind of keep this going.
There is no season finale.
No, it never stops.
point.
It
Summer
happens
break.
every single week of the year. And before we get into this next section, which we're going to talk about a couple of things, including, best wrestler of all time in your opinion, theme music, and then we're going to have some real fun on the podcast. I want to precede this next section of Raising Nashville by saying all 4 of the guys you hear on this podcast have attended a WrestleMania. And that is a big deal.
That's true.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
It's a big deal. It's like the Super Bowl of this sport. And I remember being a kid and being like, WrestleMania, I will never get there. Now, when you're in your late 30s and you can actually spend the money on it, I've now been 3 times in a row.
Are we counting the last one?
I don't know if we're counting the last one.
So like year after year, it was you looking up at that sign,
Yeah.
but not getting there.
It's not.
And now we're there.
That happened the last year. MetLife Stadium in New York. You suck.
I very much.
I
We are
wasted
not
a lot of
fans.
money on you. All right, so
But Legends Bar in Midtown, you rock.
yeah, there you go. Midtown New York Legends Bar. Hey, so does anybody in the room remember their first experience with wrestling or your history of it? Because when I was thinking about this and I actually wrote this down, I don't remember. Like somehow I woke up just liking wrestling, and I don't remember the day I liked it, the event I liked it, the time I saw it on TV. Maybe it was my mom sitting me in front of the TV on Saturday nights and watching wrestling, and maybe she was into it. I don't know. I should probably ask, but I don't remember the day I was just a wrestling fan, like from day one of my existence on Earth, according to myself.
Yeah. I found out about it through somebody at school. One of my buddies like turned me on to it, and then we would like watch it, like you said, watch it on Saturday nights. We'd have a sleepover or something or whatever. Because back then, like, I don't know if you guys remember, sometimes WWF wrestling would preempt Saturday Night Live. They like wouldn't show Saturday Night Live; they'd show wrestling instead because Saturday Night Live was getting such bad ratings.
Yes.
Oh.
So here comes the historian part.
Okay.
Yes.
That's why we bring you in.
Yeah, WrestleMania 1 was March of 85, and wrestling's at this fever. This is the height of Hulk Hogan, Rock and Roll Connection, Captain Lou Albano, Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Any event. Wrestling was so popular that NBC, one Saturday every month, and starting in May of 85, had what's called Saturday Night's Main Event.
Okay,
And then that
yeah.
became so popular that in 88, 89, one night during the week, wrestling came back to prime time television, and Friday night would be the main event.
Sure.
So
And that's how big it is. I mean, what did you say that segment was called?
Saturday night's main event.
Main Event, and that was an arcade game in the 80s.
Oh,
I remember
yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
How many nights a week is wrestling on primetime now?
Oh, gosh.
Every night now? I mean,
Monday
more?
Night Raw, Tuesday Night SmackDown. If you have the network, you can watch NXT live on Wednesday. Thursdays, if you have the network, you watch it all. But as far as like cable,
Right.
it would just be Monday and Tuesday.
Monday and Tuesday. Friday.
Unless you get to
What-
the lower levels, like Ring of Honor wrestling
Yeah,
and all that
I
other
mean-
stuff.
I thought they had Friday night. Did they move that?
That Friday night got moved to Tuesday night. So
okay.
when you're thinking Friday night, that was taped on Tuesday and then shown
On Friday.
on Friday.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So now it's just
now
live.
they're
I
both
gotcha.
live Monday and Tuesday.
All right.
Which,
cool.
if you got a pay-per-view on Sunday, it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's a lot.
So anyway, that's how I was exposed to it. I feel like was watching it on television. But I tell you one thing that like just set it in stone for me. I was in maybe 4th or 5th grade. I was in elementary school. Back when it was called elementary school. I'm not sure what it's called now.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a good point. Yeah, it's high school. It's all high school.
Anyway, we got tickets to just like a house show that was at Rupp Arena because I lived in Lexington.
Oh,
And we
man.
got seats on the floor, like the 5th row, like from the ring or whatever. And we were right next to where the wrestlers walk out. So it was
Oh,
like I got
yeah.
to walk over to
So
the gate
good.
and like get slap a 5 of like all these different wrestlers.
So much sweat.
So much sweat. And I remember like the headliner.
grease.
The headliner. Speaking of sweat, the headliner was Debo from Friday. Like he was like getting
Dang.
hyping
Oh
up
my
to
God.
like
You got to see no
wrestle
holds
Hulk.
barred.
Juicebox, how come we
shit.
never talked about this, by the way? This
I
is
don't
great.
know, man.
Keep
because
talking.
We yeah. Anyway, he didn't even wrestle anybody. He just gets in the ring and is just like shit talking Hulk Hogan, and everybody's just booing him and just like so mad. And then he walks back, and I just still walk over there. I'm like, I got to slap 5 with Debo with
Zeus.
Yeah.
Zeus from No Holds Barred, which is a great 80s movie. Actually, it's not that great. But
So
it's
not
very
as-
entertaining.
It's no Suburban Commando.
All right, a little more Nashville history. So around that time, No Holds Barred comes out in May of '89. Obviously, it does amazing. Psych, it's a flop. But Vince has a genius idea for around Christmas time to release a pay-per-view / movie. No Holds Barred, The Match, the movie. Where was that filmed? Oh, it was filmed at Municipal Auditorium in Nashville, Tennessee.
Damn.
Now, it is Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake
We get-
in a steel cage match versus Zeus Macho Man Randy Savage, and Sensational Queen Sherry.
Yes.
The hairs on my arm are standing up,
My
gentlemen.
mom ordered that pay-per-view for us.
Holy
that's
shit!
pretty
And you
good.
can still find that on the WWE Network. Is that right?
Maybe. I mean, I never.
I mean, you can still find
Yeah.
WrestleCade like '89, the historic
you can
Ric
find
Flair Ricky Steamboat
Wrestle
match. That
War
was
89,
Wrestle War that
which
was at Municipal.
the author of our article released a smaller article because it's the 30-year anniversary, May 5th. I want to say May 5th, but that's my wedding anniversary. I'm sorry, honey. It might be May 5th. It might be May 5th, 1989, which is some people consider the greatest wrestling match ever. It's Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, their final in a series of 3 that they had that spring. Jim Cornette has said, I'm going to butcher this, but it's the height of being a sport that's entertaining versus being an entertaining sport. Like he still thought 2 guys were actually wrestling for something, but yet you could still see the entertainment value. And
Sure.
I'm butchering that quote. Look that quote up, but that's what they call
That doesn't matter. I mean, that's powerful.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, that'd be good.
that's our history of wrestling. Now I want to kind of have some fun with the podcast. For all you wrestling fans out there, we know you have yours, but we all have ours, and we're going to let you know right now. And I'm just going to throw it around the room, whoever wants to go first on this. Who is the best wrestler of all time, and why?
Rowdy Piper.
All right, why?
Because he was just the most entertaining madman that, I don't know, that I watched back in my heyday.
He did. He played both sides of the field. He played babyface and heel a lot, right?
Yeah.
Or was he?
He was an insane heel.
Oh,
He was
great.
He was
He's-
a crazy.
If Hulk Hogan's Superman, he's Lex Luthor. He's
Okay.
he's the Joker, whatever it is. He was, and without that, you don't have WrestleMania 1. You don't have Saturday Night's Main Event. He's
I
very
can-
much a cog in that.
I
True.
can remember a time in, I guess it was maybe in the 80s, and this maybe even like scrubbed from the existence now, but he fought a dude named Bad News Brown, and he came
Oh,
out
yeah. Oh,
and
my
painted
gosh.
half of his body black and half of his body white.
that
Like,
is-
he went half blackface for the match.
That is
God.
WrestleMania 6. And if you watch the promo for that, first off, you could never, ever get
Dude,
away
it's-
with any of this. And
I remember seeing it as a kid and thinking like, I think this is wrong.
yeah,
But
I was 8 years old and was like, I think this is a bit much.
Yeah.
But the promo he does leading into the match, he's got one half and he's looking at Mean Gene and he goes, yeah, you can say I'm the hot rod, but some folks call me, and then he turns around, whole body's solid black, calls me the hot Scott. And then he starts disco dancing. And
Oh my God.
it's uncomfortable slash, okay, it's genius slash uncomfortable. How about that? It's
Right.
yeah.
I'm encourage you to go watching it.
Yeah,
to go
I'm
and
gonna have
watch
to go
it.
back
but
out. I'm gonna have to go back
So
out.
many
to that.
drugs, I can imagine.
All right, old boy, best wrestler ever, and why?
I really like Dusty Rhodes
Okay.
for just many reasons, which I think we're probably going to cover here in a second. His theme song is
His eating
badass.
habits.
For a big man, he can move, dude.
Yeah.
And
He's the
he also gave birth to
Your favorite
Gold
wrestler
Dust.
of all time?
Gold Dust.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just great, dude. That lisp is fantastic, baby.
He's actually had a pretty He did have a big lisp. Who was his girl? Is it Sherry?
Sweet Sapphire, baby.
The Sapphire. Yeah, that's right.
Come on,
Sapphire.
Bucky now, baby.
Yeah. Sapphire, and then he did birth Gold Dust, and he also birthed Cody Rhodes, who's kind of the face of this new franchise coming up. So
Yeah.
very successful family, but he didn't live very long, right?
No, he lived in his 60s, yeah.
Did he? Okay.
I want to say he passed away at 69, which makes him even more cooler because I'm a child, apparently.
Okay.
Hey,
So
just don't fact check it. It's true.
Yeah, I'm a historian, apparently, on this podcast.
all right, Charles Taylor King II. We're gonna say who's the best wrestler of all time and why.
All right. The best wrestler of all time is Ric Flair. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay. Slow down. Because how do you judge any athlete? Let's say a baseball player. Are they a 5-tool guy? Ric Flair is a 5-tool guy. He's got the looks. He looks important. I don't
Sure.
know why. His interview, without a doubt, is entertaining. You have rappers, anybody, pro athletes, anybody with any sort of influence right now quotes him as a influence. ring skills, athleticism. He can go. He wrestled every night for 60 minutes against whoever the most popular guy was in Muskogee. He had to wrestle him, and he had to make him look good for 60 minutes, and then he'd come back a month later and do it again.
Yep.
Also, I think that goes into the fourth part, which is dancing. You got to have a good dance part. Yes, he was a great ballroom dancer, Ric Flair. But you got to be able, no matter, say this guy's a terrible wrestler. Well, I'm going to make him look like $1 million.
That's right.
So you got to sell. You got to sell it.
That is the fifth point there, Bucky. Sell tickets. Put an ass in the seat. They say if you can put an ass every 18 inches, can you sell them out? Can you talk them in the building? That's the bottom line. If you can do that, it doesn't matter. You could be 900 pounds. You could talk them in the building. You're good.
I'm going to say the best wrestler of all time is just a given, and it is it's obvious. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Ooh,
I mean,
very
he was the king of the Attitude Era, which really brought a lot of us into wrestling. I mean, when I was a kid, I loved wrestling, the Hulk Hogan years, the Macho Man's, the Ultimate Warriors, all of these people, but the Attitude Era was a staple of the WWF.
So I was born in the early 80s. Gentlemen here, we're all born early 80s. You get into wrestling as a child. It's cartoony. It's Hulk Hogan.
Sure.
And then as, you get into 12, 13 years old, you're like, oh, that's for kids. I don't like that.
Yep.
Well, what brought you back?
Gotta
I'm
do
pretty sure
something
it was the
different.
guy slamming beers and flipping off people and beating the crap out of his boss and driving monster trucks to the ring. I was like, wow, I think that guy's pretty cool.
There is absolutely no better storyline than him versus Vince McMahon. Like, beating up your boss is like 90% of people.
What we all
maybe
wanna
not
do.
90%. Yeah, but
Absolutely.
But a good chunk of the population definitely wants to beat up.
Has
their
that
boss.
fantasy,
Like,
yeah.
Well, how
exactly.
about we beat him up and then we drink beers and pour beers on him as we do
Yeah.
it?
I mean, let's take it
And
to
then,
the next
and then
level.
and then I leave the ring in a monster truck, and then I go to the next town and I do it all again.
Yeah.
That's right. It's a great fantasy.
That's the
actually. I
American
really like
dream,
that.
baby.
Yeah,
right
That
there.
is.
It was great. And if I can,
we should switch his name.
all right. So those were our best wrestlers of all time. Who you got? Let us know out there. Hit us up on Instagram and stuff. Now, all right. So
Can I tell my story about how I got into wrestling?
I guess.
A friend of mine growing up, he was he got spanked, but he switched out a wrestling buddy who took the whooping. So I was like, "What is it? Tell me more about this wrestling buddy." So I go out, I spend my allowance money on a wrestling buddy, and every time I was supposed to get whooped, I just replaced it with that wrestling buddy. But anyway, that's what got me into wrestling as a child. So that's thank you for letting me share
It's
that.
good
Sorry.
to know. I'm glad we came
Yeah,
back to that.
no problem.
So along with the best wrestler of all time comes what? The biggest thing of that match, which is their entrance. And this is what builds it. This is what people get behind. I mean, today they're called pops. And when
Absolutely.
music comes on, the crowd goes crazy because your favorite wrestler or your favorite heel or whoever is there. And they're going to come down to some incredible theme music, which has been created for them. So what we want to do is best wrestler theme music and why. And I'm going to let Juicebox start on this one.
Okay, I did not pick Roddy Piper's theme music for this.
Too many bagpipes.
Yeah, too much bagpipes. I just tried to think of like who has one of the most epic openings, and it was.
I mean, you already get chills.
I mean, it's just like you think about the stage and all the fog on the stage and everything. It's all just blacked out. Like it's the whole thing. It's not the song just in itself. It's the whole intro.
And if you see it live, it's unreal.
Okay, so mine is going to be... Oh, yeah. We're talking $1 Million Man. We're talking Wrestling Buddy when I was a kid. Everybody's got a price. If you haven't seen the video to this, please go out there.
I hated the $1 Million Man so much. He was such a great heel because I hated him so much.
Best laugh ever. Now, what I was mistaken on that theme song, though, is when I was, for some reason, I was thinking back on it. I said, best wrestling theme song is $1 Million Man because it goes, money, 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 money.
I guess the
money.
OJ's,
And it
right?
does it.
That's Shane McMahon.
Do you know whose theme
No, that's
song that
Here
is?
Comes the money.
Do you know
Donald
whose theme?
Trump?
Yep.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, who's next?
I'll see myself out.
My favorite is this. Just listen. You'll know why.
I'm getting hyped.
He's just a common man.
This is so badass.
This is something I would go see on the weekend.
Right?
Yeah.
This is like
He's playing Basement East on Friday.
me going to my second job montage.
No, you always told me it was driving down the street in a Cadillac and you got out and you were like pointing to the side. Just
So if you don't know, that's Dusty Rhodes theme music.
Yeah,
Absolutely
if you're not-
incredible.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it could be the best.
my ringtone. It should. Yeah.
I mean,
That song is great.
musically, it's the best so far.
Okay,
easily.
No,
that's true.
musically.
All right, so mine, originally what I chose is what led off this podcast, but mine is,
Yep, that is definitely
I'm about to, yeah.
Ultimate
I'm about to-
Warrior.
I'm
That
about to
is
break some
rope
stuff.
grabbing, head banging.
Yes.
Everybody should know what that is. I'm just shaking,
Yeah.
thinking about it. Wanting to come back from like a hand grip move. Just
The claw. Someone's
yeah.
got the claw on you. You
My-
ever come off that?
My true story of my introduction to wrestling, it had to do with a friend of mine who was crying because Hulk Hogan lost to Ultimate Warrior. And
Yeah.
I was like, "Are you related to Hulk Hogan?"
Man,
Dude, did you look at my paper?
No.
Literally my first experience or first thing you remember of wrestling. One was renting the tapes, like always Saturday morning, and then, my mom, single mom, she dropped me off my grandparents and would drop me off. I go rent tapes, but my nana had a friend of hers who worked at the factory and recorded. Gosh, that sounds like 1888. They recorded it for me, showed it to me the next week, and yes, I bawled crying when Ultimate Warrior beat Hulk Hogan, April 1st, 1990, WrestleMania 6, Skydome, Toronto.
Well, Hulk Hogan's the biggest babyface ever, right? I mean, that's
It's the passing
Yeah.
of the torch.
All right,
remember-
so of those four wrestling theme songs, you've got Undertaker, production value, the Big Pop, $1 Million Man. You've got Dusty Rhodes, and you've got what did we just hear?
Ultimate Warrior.
Ultimate Warrior.
Obviously very memorable.
I mean, who do you guys think is the best one? After hearing it one more time,
I still think I
Dusty
know.
Rhodes.
Yeah, I don't think I know it's mine.
I'm gonna have to go with that. I
You
mean,
want to know what's great about all four? Written by the same guy.
I was gonna say, I bet. Yeah,
yeah,
Damn.
that
All
guy's
four
got
musical
some
Jim
some
Johnston.
click money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
damn.
Damn, he's got some chops.
All right. So another thing that we wanted to do and make it really fun is what I enlisted these guys to do this week was to go on a certain website.
You guys, this is the most homework we've ever had to do for this podcast.
Because I'm an asshole and,
And
I really was
And
excited
and
about
some
this
people.
episode.
Some people did it better than others.
So what we're going to do, there is a website out there called namegeneratorfund.com, and you can go in there and type in your name, your God-given name, and it will create your own wrestling name. And I did this, and I asked the other guys in the podcast to do this, but I also thought, well, because mine was so terrible when I pulled it up, I was like, well, why don't we just create our own names and compare them to our generated names from this website? Again, you can go out there, namegeneratorfund.com. I'm just going to go ahead and lead it off. The name I was given was Kurt Loverboy Henderson.
That it gave me the same name.
Really?
Are you
No.
You just scared me that this is a bust. So Kurt Loverboy Henderson, and I am a face known for excellent fundamentals, and my finishing move is the double slam. It's like the most boring common wrestler I
What
could
is
ever
the
imagine.
double slam?
I don't know. I guess it's slamming somebody and picking them up and slamming them again.
No, you slammed two people at once.
Okay, the double slam.
So, I don't know. Mine was actually kind of funny, I feel like. It's Zach the Maharaja Kim. I am a cruiserweight I'm a tag cruiserweight from parts unknown. I'm a heel known for a tabloid scandal after I was caught being a racist.
What? Oh my
on now.
god!
Wait,
is
why
it
is it-
Zach or Zach?
It's Zach.
Ooh.
It's not a Zach. But fitting.
Well, no one's beating that.
My
so I
finishing
just-
move is the turnaround crush.
Oh, God.
Wow, a racist.
You're a
Uh,
racist.
Zach
Right.
Maharaja Kim. Those are three different. Those are three.
yeah, that's
Somebody got you on tape doing something.
I don't know, man. I got a weird
They,
name to.
they knew you were recording this podcast. You had to read that description.
All right. Mine is a Gabriel Creme Brulee Diaz. I am a singles
Dessert.
I am a singles cruiserweight from Mississippi. Okay. I'm a face that's known for breaking out into rap music. And my finishing move is the Berserker Punch. And I'm currently working at Home Depot because I didn't sell any tickets because that's terrible.
Wait, so you're named after a dessert and you rap?
I'm named after a French dessert, but I'm Hispanic and I'm from Mississippi and I rap. And my finishing move is some type of Viking punch.
So I'm the only All-American so far. Old boy, what you got?
I'm from Mississippi. I don't know where you're trying to find
Yeah,
on
well,
that.
I was gonna say maybe you're the racist. Maybe I was naturally against this, but I did it. My name is Jules Skullmaster Lee. I'm a singles heavyweight from Rhode Island, which is pretty exciting. And I'm a face known for my smack talk, and my finishing move is the midair rush. But before I did that, I did it wrong, and I accidentally picked out a roller derby name on accident, which is Monkey Flesh Hacker, which is a lot better, a.k.a. the Face Nasher. Nasher.
So with that being said and out there, those are our generated names. We wanted to create our own names for ourselves and our own wrestlers. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this because none of us know what each person has decided to do. This will be the first time you hear it in this podcast that we are about to hear what every wrestler is. Does anybody want to go first?
I'll go first.
Oh, go ahead.
My guy's name is, or my wrestling name is Beefcake Ichiku.
Damn,
We're going to need a description of Beefcake Ichiku.
I'm look kind of like myself. I have long hair and a scraggly beard, and I'm a heel, and I listen to a lot of Blue Oyster Cult.
Damn, that's.
So he's a beefcake bad time.
I will
mean, that's
pay money to see him get his ass whooped.
yeah.
I might dose you up with bad acid. Watch out.
Oh God.
My wrestler name is Studs McFuckingsworth. He's a
You can
heel.
use that.
He's a heel. They can beep that out. There's a delay. He
Every
talks.
time you wrestle.
Think Jimmy Hart. Like, I'm just a mouthpiece. I got a megaphone. I'm yelling at people. I'm lifting up skirts.
So you're like the most offensive wrestler.
I'm flirting with the attendees. That's who my guy is.
Is that an act or is that real life?
It's
Based on real life.
man, what's your wrestler's name?
It's funny you ask. My wrestler's name. So I wanted to throw it back to like the old school Fall guys, the guys you just sent out there to lose matches to pump other people up. And my wrestler is closely inspired by one of my favorite Fall guys of all time, the Repo Man. So I'm actually calling myself.
Was he your wrestling buddy?
He was. He
you have a wrestling buddy
He
of
did not have a
Repo Man?
wrestling buddy.
Oh,
You stole him. You had to put him on payments, and then somebody came and got him.
So my wrestling persona and name would be Trash Man. Before you get into it, again, he's a Fall guy. I've got an idea for this, right? Trash Man, hear me out. Here's his theme music. It breaks open. It says, "Bitch, I live in a fucking trash can" by Dave Chappelle. And then the music, "I Still Believe" by Tim Capello, better known as the sax player from the Lost Boys, starts playing. And I come down with a metal trash can. Like one of those little trash cans, like Oscar the Grouch trash can.
Okay.
Right. And my finishing moves, one would be a submission move. It'd be called the Compactor.
Okay. All right.
And then my second finishing move would be the Dump. And what that is a double flip off the top rope where I land butt down on the chest of the opponent for the 1, 2, 3.
Okay. And
A
then
double flip. You're thinking a lot of yourself. On this
right. Yeah. I'm. Yeah. So your guy's in shape. So
In this scenario,
'cause I was picturing something different now. So
A fit garbage man.
So after you pin your opponent 1, 2, 3, do you like sprinkle trash on them and then like leave?
I get the trash can off the side. It's full of trash.
That's a
I
very
dump it on them.
It's a very 80s wrestler. I'm with
Okay.
it. I can dig it.
Didn't that happen on Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Is that?
Wait, I didn't just plagiarize
Did you?
that. No,
No,
I didn't.
but
I
you did-
created that.
But you did plagiarize Duke the Dumpster Drosy, who was a garbage man that Vince had in the mid-'90s.
I did not know
Shortly
that. I
after
did
Repo
not know
Man
that.
carried a garbage can down to the ring. Yes, Duke the
Yeah, I
Dumpster
think I remember
Drosy.
that.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
maybe-
my inspirations were Repo Man and Junkyard Dog mixed together. And it wasn't, I don't know who that is. I didn't watch
Yes.
Thursday Night Wrestling in the 90s.
Okay, is it my turn?
Show Liz.
Oh, yeah.
Because I totally flubbed this, and I thought we were doing like wrestling name your choice, so I just made wrestling names off my name, which was kind of spoken in the beginning. So if you were going to be my name, it would be Charles the Wrestling Machine King, which I would wear a singlet, very similar to Kurt Angle, or I would be Charles the Sex Machine King, very similar to Rick Rude, Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, or Charles the Fightin' Machine King. I could be all these things. Yes, it's very boring.
We
I'm
were
into- I
understanding
like
that
this.
you're a machine.
I like this. I like this. I forgot. HBK's got some good theme music too.
There
man.
you
I
go.
forget
Just a
about that.
sexy
Yeah,
boy.
Yeah, I'm just a sexy
Also,
boy.
yes,
He
I'd have
also
to-
has a six-pack.
a six-pack of garbage cans, yes.
Well, I mean, we've had fun with, just spitballing wrestling. We started with the history of wrestling in Nashville and kind of went through some of our things. Just for you guys out there to know, the reason we brought Charles Taylor King in the second in is because we actually started something that got us all back into wrestling about 10 years ago, actually, coming up this year in 2020. Is the Royal Rumble event. It's part of the big four events that happen every year: WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble. What's the fourth? Survivor Series.
Survivor Series.
Yeah. So those are the original four. We get together at the Royal Rumble in a bar in East Nashville. I'll go ahead and shout it out. Beyond the Edge has hosted us the last few years. They've been absolutely great. We have a great event out there. We put it on every year, and it kind of got started by Charles, or we call him Charlie. So it got started by him, and it originated with 6 people in a living room, and now it's grown to this thing where I think last year we had 60 people in a bar.
Easily, yeah.
I mean, just screaming and yelling, and it's a fun time. We have balloon drops, we have trophies, we have plaques, we have giveaways. It's nothing but drinking and having a great time.
Second Christmas.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Better Christmas.
And
Better than the Super Bowl.
for 10 years, I mean, the winner of the Royal Rumble takes home a very large cash prize, like a 5-foot trophy. You get
Yeah.
your name on a plaque, you get a belt. And I am one of the recipients of that,
I knew this was coming.
award. And, Juicebox and Old Boy have also won the Royal Rumble in the 10
Yep.
years we've been doing it. So you're looking at 3 of the 7 winners. Charles
Yes,
is still waiting for his.
I sure am.
And he created this event, and the more it grows, the worse the percentages are getting that you're going to win this. It's a fun event. So if you're in town in Nashville on the Royal Rumble and you remember this podcast because it probably came out last summer, or if you're listening to it now and you're just now discovering us, we'll be at Beyond the Edge more than likely on Sunday of Royal Rumble.
In January, yeah.
I'll be the one in the back room, just like Macho Man Randy Savage, getting wildly drunk after I lose, because post-Royal Rumble depression is a real thing, guys, and it
Yep.
sucks.
It really is.
Oh man, but that elation when you lift that trophy.
When you win, man, it is something.
Side note, when Juicebox won, I finished second.
Yeah,
And that's
I
the
did. I
closest.
felt a little bad about that.
You didn't feel
you
bad.
shouldn't feel bad at all because you won.
Well,
That
no, I
is
felt
tough.
great about that.
Nobody can ever take that away from you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was great. Even the second, I was happy.
So-
I wasn't at all, but still.
So that is ultimately our wrestling podcast this week. What I wanted to do before we left is give a couple of shout outs to some things in Nashville if you are a wrestling fan to kind of search out. And one of them is an event that happens at the Basement East, right?
Yes.
And it's once a month. Is that correct?
Yes.
What's it called?
Southern Underground Pro Wrestling.
Southern Underground Pro Wrestling. It's going to give you an idea of kind of how wrestling started and some of the smaller venues It happens at the Basement East, and I'm actually attending my first one next month. Is that
In
right?
July,
In
yes.
July, yeah. So we're excited about that to kind of go there. It happens on Sunday afternoons. Also, if you're awake very early, like we are with children, on Sunday mornings, I think it's 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings is Squared Circle Radio on 104.5 The Zone. And to me, it's one of the best radio shows on. Some of the guys who are on the main shows on 104.5 get together and talk about wrestling once a week for a couple of hours on
That's
Sunday
pretty cool.
mornings. It really is, and they kind of go in depth, and they're way better than we are on this podcast. So if you get a chance, go out to listen to them. Shout out to Squared Circle Radio. Before we get out of here, and we've been kind of doing this the last few weeks, is do we have any updates based on past podcasts?
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, my mom told me I cuss too much.
Okay.
So she called me today. She's like, "Hey, do you think you could clean up your language a little bit?" So I was like, "Yeah, I'll try." And then she also said, "Hey, you should have me on because I want to correct some of your information." And I thought, what? So then she
I
started.
have 2 stories to fact check if we have time. Go ahead.
Do you? So
Yeah.
she
We
started
don't
telling me.
we don't fact check. We don't.
We're
Fair
very,
enough. No fact checking.
But she tried to tell me that some of my information was wrong, which I think I corrected her. So
Okay.
I think. But anyway, I thought it was interesting. But yeah, I cuss too much also.
Based on that, do I have to clean up my language?
No. It had nothing to do with you. I don't think
Okay.
she pays too much attention to that.
Jay, if you're listening, shout out to you. We'll get old boy.
We'll get you on there.
Yeah,
We'll get you on here.
on here, and we'll get old boy to clean it up. I mean, he needs to get his mouth out of the gutter anyway.
I've been trying.
Yep.
I have one story to leave us with.
Okay.
When me and old boy here went to a sold-out Monday Night Raw in 2013, it was headlined by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
That's right.
He told a story about Nashville that you can find from grainy cell phone video on YouTube.
You sure can. Yeah.
About
Whose cell phone video?
Just the
somebody.
cell phone,
Okay.
WWE Nashville
Gotcha.
2013. And the story goes that The Rock, this I'm almost positive was off air when he told this story, but The Rock spent his freshman year of high school here in Nashville.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh boy, where did he go to high school at?
He went to McGavick.
Nuh-uh.
Sure did.
Is that
yeah.
is that a public school?
Did he
That is a
graduate?
public school, isn't it?
Dang.
That is a public school The
Stay.
Rock went to.
So go to public school. You'll end up like The Rock.
Yep.
Yeah, and only stay
But
stay
also-
for ninth grade.
only stay for ninth grade. And then he told a story about how he bought a car off what he described as a crackhead in the alley between the Ryman and Tootsie's and the stage, which I was like, that is the most Nashville story I've ever heard. But he ended up leaving, went to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where he finished high school, top recruit, went to the University of Miami.
And you know the
Smell-
story from
smell
there.
what he's
Played
cooking.
Football.
Yes.
Yeah, we're talking about The Rock. Well, we want to thank our local wrestling historian, Charles Taylor King, for coming on Raising Nashville today. Thank you, Charlie.
It's a pleasure
Yeah,
to be here,
man.
gentlemen.
It was awesome kind of talking with you about wrestling this week. We know it's near and dear to your heart. It is to mine. And we hopefully people out there that are listening, if you get a chance, go on our social medias, like our page, we put up plenty of posts, and feel free to like those. Feel free to reach out to us. Find our podcast, listen to it, go to past episodes. We've got
Give
some
us
pretty interesting
suggestions.
stuff. Yeah, give us some suggestions.
Yeah, tell us if we suck or
You
If
guys,
this
you guys
podcast
don't suck.
sucks.
Podcast is
I feel like
amazing.
this
I like it.
podcast is for very specific. The people that are still hanging on are like a very certain type of people.
I don't know, man. I think we've got a wide variety of people listening to us, and our subjects might not hit home with everybody, but I think people different walks of life are giving us a chance. So.
All right, yeah. Shout out to you if you're not into wrestling and you made it this far into this podcast.
Yeah,
gosh, yes.
parents and friends and Nashvillians alike. Well,
Thanks, Mom.
we'll see you again next week. Thank you, guys. We hope you guys enjoyed listening. If you don't have children,
Have one.
have one.
Catch up.
Yeah, we want you to know what we go through.
Yeah.
The fear.
He